Shana Tova. Welcome. Welcome to everyone who's here with us in person. Welcome to everyone who's joining us on Zoom or streaming on our website. I wanted to start tonight by reflecting with us for a moment where we were 1 year ago. 1 year ago tonight, I was walking out the door of my home to come here to help us usher in Rosh Hashanah, the holiest of times in a world gone mad, in a world that had been turned upside down by pandemic and isolation and uncertainty, with this monumental election looming before us that we knew would determine the fate of the country, if not the fate of the world. And right as I crossed the threshold, leaving my home which had cocooned my family and me for 7 months, right at that moment, we learned that Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg had died. And I fell to the ground and I wailed. I wailed so loudly that my neighbor across the street came over to wail with me for a moment, because we knew, all of us, what this would likely mean for this country. And about an hour later, our services started. Each of us was upstairs, clergy and daveners, in the same building, but without any community members on site, sequestered from one another in our own rooms so that we wouldn't risk harm to one another, united in our grief and our dismay, in our fear and our resolve. We knew that we were going to have to be strong in the days ahead to weather what was coming, and we knew that it was in some ways our job to help strengthen the community as well. It's 1 year later tonight. We are badly bruised, but we're still standing. In some ways, the last year was worse than we imagined, in some ways significantly better. We have found incredible strength even through our suffering in this time. And even as we remain apart, we've continued to find ways to be together. Even as we continue to hurt, we have found ways again and again to help one another heal. So here we are again tonight, ready to usher in another new year. And I want to say, I welcome you. I desperately wanted to fill this entire building with thousands of people, as is our way on the holidays, but that was not to be this year. Instead, we have a small number of folks who will be praying with us tonight, tomorrow, and the next day on Kol Nidre and on Yom Kippur. And we have many, many more people joining us from really all around the world who are with us via broadcast. Wherever you are tonight, physically and spiritually, we wrap our arms of love and presence around all of you. I want you to know that you are not alone, even if you are sitting alone right now. We will bring in this new year together. So please don't watch us, join us, don't listen to us, sing with us, lift your voices to meet ours. In a couple of hours, when it gets dark out tonight, we will see the new moon poking through the night sky, an eternal promise that from the depths of darkness, new light emerges. And with that new light, may we find hope and resiliency and strength to traverse these extraordinary times that we are living through. I really pray that this holy time together, these next 10 days, will remind us that while so much is really out of our hands, there is so much that we can do and that we must do in order to live in greater alignment with our truest selves and to build a world of beauty and dignity, of health and healing, of love and justice for every single person. So welcome, Shana Tova. I wish you a year of sweetness and goodness. I invite you to please rise in whatever way you're able, and we turn to page 3.
Adonai Hoshia, Melech Yaneinu v'yom kareinu. Adonai Hoshia, Melech Yaneinu v'yom kareinu. Adonai Hoshia, Melech Yaneinu v'yom kareinu. Baruch hu et Adonai Hamvorah. Baruch Adonai Morach Leolam Boed.
You can have a seat. Page 5.
Umabir yom, umevi laila, umabdil ben yom uben laila. Adonai Tzvaot Shemo, El Chai V'Kayam, Tamid Yimloch Aleinu Le'olam Noer, Baruch Atah Adonai. Ay, ay, Amari Varavi.
Shema's in the middle of page 6.
ימי השמיים על הארץ, ויאמר אדוני למשה לאמור, דבר אל אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. פדה אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני. איי, איי,
Hashkivenu emerges from the fear and uncertainty that accompany nighttime. And it's not just the physical threats that loom at night. It's the fear that will be perpetually stuck in darkness, that the morning's light won't break through. We know this fear and have known it since the beginning of our collective story. Adam and Eve had never seen sunset. So that first night, as the sky darkened, Adam began to cry. On account of my sin, the world is coming to an end. He sat down by the riverbank, crying and praying. Eve joined him, and they spent the night holding each other, terrified of what would be, but determined to face it together. And slowly the night sky brightened and the sun peeked through. They turned to each other, acknowledging that this is the way of the world. The darkness is real, and the uncertainty of how long this chapter will last is so painful. And our tradition affirms that darkness isn't permanent. It's always displaced by light. And while we're waiting and praying and working to move through the darkness, maybe we can be like Eve. Sit down next to someone who needs you and hold them however you know how. And we ask that of you too, God. Shelter us. Shelter us in the shadow of your wings, and even when we can't yet see it, may we know that shadows always grow from light. We turn to Hashkivenu on page 9.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'amidenu mokeinu l'chayim. Nuveros aleinu sukat shalomecha baruch atah Adonai ha-pores sukat shalom na'aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'al Yerushalayim hiku b'chodesh shofar b'kesel yom chagenu ki chag Yisrael hu mishpat le'Elohei Yaakov. Yitkadam ve'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah ve'yomadi l'chirutei ve'yamlich malchutei na'ai b'chayecho
we're about to step into the first Amidah of the year, the first offering of this process. We're beginning a process right now, and we've been preparing for that. Feels like we've been preparing since last year. So much thought going into the lights and the spacing and the zooms and the vaccinations, and we've been practicing music and we've been studying Torah. We've been doing so much preparation. But none of that matters without you. This process cannot begin without you. This is not a spectator sport. This requires participation. It's not an external process, it's an internal process. And so it needs you. It needs your heart. Rahmana liba boy, the Talmud says, the merciful one wants our hearts. So as we step into the Amidah, remember to bring yourself, to bring your whole self, to bring your heart into this process, because the process is beginning, and it begins inside, begins in here. So I invite everybody to begin that process. Please rise, and we'll step into our first Amidah of the year on page 11. 3 steps back and 3 steps forward.
Kaddish Shalem is on page 19.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה ויעלמה דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי בכל בית ישראל בגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן יהי שמירה לו מבורך ויעלם לו מיומי יתברך וישתבח ויתברך ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי קודשה לעמים כל ברכתה ושירתה צלוחתה ונחמתה תמירה ויעלמה ויאמרו תתקבל שדותון ונתון בכל ישראל קדם אבון בישמעיה ואמרו אמן יש למר רבני שמעיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן עושה שלום במרומה הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל
Y'all can have a seat.
Hi, everyone. Hi. 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 Shana Tova. 40 days and 40 nights. That's how long many of us think that Noah's flood lasted. It's not quite true. That is how long it rained. Then the water subsides for 150 days. There are another couple of months of more subsiding. The ark hangs out on the top of some mountains for a bit. Noah sends birds to check for dry land. When all is said and done, Noah is in the ark for a full year. A full year. I've been thinking a lot about Noah lately, stuck in his ark with his immediate family and his many, many pets, his pod, if you will. Are we like Noah, though? On the one hand, we've been going through this pandemic a lot longer than his time on the ark. But on the other hand, we haven't been through anything like Noah was. He experienced the complete destruction of the earth and all its inhabitants due to a climate disaster. For us, for now anyway, it's just a global pandemic. But it's hard not to see some parallels between his experience and ours. What was it like for Noah the day God said it was time to board the ark? Was it like when you realized that you couldn't take that trip you were planning? Or that your wedding needed to be postponed indefinitely? When you realized that you were just hired as your child's homeschool teacher for zero pay and with no real qualifications? Or when it sunk in that you would be making a Pesach Seder alone? Do you ask the 4 questions when there's nobody there to hear them? The answer is yes. 40 days and 40 nights of unrelenting torrential rain. 11 months of fear, scrambling to keep ourselves afloat. Studies show that people are having more difficulty sleeping, are experiencing more anxiety and depression. I am worried about you. I'm worried about me. I'm worried about all of us. I'm worried about our physical and mental health. And I'm also worried about what this pandemic is doing to our hearts. Like Noah, our primary goal at first was survival. He built a physical ark. Some of our boundaries were physical too, distance between us and others. We also built walls around our hearts. How else to get through it? While we're wiping down our groceries with bleach, wondering if our job would be there next week, worrying that the guy at the supermarket with his mask below his nose was going to kill us. It was so much to hold. And what about now? We're still on the ark, but we're not where we were last year. At this time, I was in a Shalhevet classroom alone, with the door closed, mask on, grateful I could at least join my voice with the other clergy again after 7 months of singing to a screen in my dining room. Look at us now. So yes, we're still on the ark, but with gratitude to God and science, we have moved forward. I think about Noah on that ark for all that time. God could have made it so that the flood waters receded as quickly as they had swelled. But imagine what that would have been like for Noah. It would have been so intense to go directly from the unrelenting assault of the rain to the shock of the new reality. His heart wouldn't have been able to handle it. He needed the time on the ark to prepare himself to leave. Now, I'm not suggesting that the reason we are still stuck on our own COVID arks is because God is doing this to us on purpose. But since we are here, how do we make sure that we're using this time to move ourselves forward spiritually? That we're preparing ourselves to not only re-enter the world, but re-enter better, stronger, more thoughtful, and more awake. It's time to bring some of our walls down, and the High Holy Days are made just for that purpose. Our annual prying open of the heart feels more important than ever. And we have some tools to help us. Over the course of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, we'll recite a prayer called Untitled Chapter, best known, partly thanks to Leonard Cohen, for the deeply troubling section which asks, who will live and who will die? Who by water? Who by fire? Who by plague? Who by sword? It's hard not to feel the weight of this prayer every year, but especially right now as fires and storms and violence and disease rage in so many corners of our country and world. This prayer pushes us to recognize the fragility of life and how much is outside of our control. And then it ends with a phrase, Utshuva, utfila, utzdaka, ma'avirin et roach hagzeira. Tshuva, repentance or return, tefillah, prayer, and tzedakah, charity, justice. These three tools have the potential of pushing aside the harshness of a decree. Not the decree itself. They're not a magic wand changing our history or our fate. But perhaps they can mitigate some experiences, the impact of some experiences, such as the one we have all been enduring for 18 months. Tshuva. We often translate tshuva as repentance, and that is part of it. Tshuva is the gift that reminds us we can be better, that growth is part of life, that we can be different, we can change. But this year, to focus only on sin or mistakes feels like it misses the point. The root of tshuva is the same as the word for return, lashuv. In the act of tshuva, we seek to return to ourselves. Dr. Erica Brown writes the following in her book, Return, Daily Inspiration for the Days of Awe. Rabbi Jonah of Gerona called repentance a sanctuary, a place to escape the intensity of sin. It is also the place to embrace the strength needed to fight our hardest inner battles and our stubborn resistance to change. She continues, by calling repentance a sanctuary, Rabbi Jonah transformed an act into a space we can step into and know that we are home and we are safe. We have returned to our essential selves, the people we like best. Tshuva is hard. The process of self-reflection can feel daunting, especially when the stresses of the pandemic have made it difficult to be the best version of ourselves. Relationships that need repair? Check. Struggling with things like patience or compassion? Absolutely. So what a powerful idea Brown is bringing. That this holy work of self-examination, tshuva, is not an act, but a space we can step into, that we are home and that we are safe. Imagine the healing, the love, the wholeness that tshuva might bring. Tool number 2, tefillah. There's a halakha, a Jewish law, that says we should only pray in a place that has a window. Did you know there was a window on Noah's Ark? It was how he sent off the birds when he wanted to know if it was safe to leave the ark. First, he sent a raven, which came back. Noah understood from this that the raven hadn't found a place to land and stay. The waters were still too high. He sent a dove, which came back with an olive branch, which is a better sign. He sent another dove, which didn't return. He took this to mean that it had found safety and that he too could leave the ark. It must have taken a lot for him to send that first bird. Hope in the face of the complete unknown. Then it came back, devastating. And yet he was willing to try again and again. Each of those birds was a prayer. For us to pray as Noach did in those moments, we must reveal to ourselves our deepest wishes, to send them out into the world with the faith that there will be land. In prayer, we ask a question, and we listen carefully for the answer. These high holy days, find your window. Send out your prayer. Then, even if it's not clear whether anyone or anything has heard it, send another. To pray in this way is an act of vulnerability. In the face of uncertainty, we act with hope. Tzedakah, charity, justice. The thing about that window on the ark is that it also brings the outside world in. Before the flood, Noach was not concerned with the brokenness around him. The Torah tells us Noach walked with God. And the commentary, Rav Yitzchak Abarvanel, explains that this means Noach didn't engage the people of his time at all. There was corruption and a devaluing of human life and widespread theft and so much more that he just wasn't paying attention to. And I don't imagine that Noach looked out the window of his ark much at the beginning of the flood either. It might have been too difficult to attend to his own distress and also to witness the loss of life outside. But when it got quiet, after the rain stopped, Noach could look outside again. When we are scared and overwhelmed, it can be hard to look beyond ourselves. But when we can catch our breath, even just a little, we must widen our gaze and look out the window. COVID has shown light on a number of issues that it is our responsibility to make sure are remembered and are addressed, even as we move forward. What are some of those things? The isolation that some people in our society feel regularly. The burden on parents for childcare and schooling in a society with no safety net. The way systemic racism permeates everything, our education system, our healthcare system. The alarming rise in homelessness, especially here in Los Angeles. The inclusion of tzedakah as one of the three major tools of the High Holy Days reminds us that even as we are asked to reflect deeply on ourselves, we must not stay wrapped up only in our own stories. Tshuva, tefillah, tzedakah. Noach needed time to prepare his heart to go back into the world. Like it or not, we have also been given an extended period of preparation. While, please God, we will be able to leave soon, let us use this time wisely. I imagine that when Noach did finally leave the ark, with all of that time that he had spent, he took in what was lost and what had been destroyed. But he was also open to what was breathtakingly beautiful. As we take steps already, some small, some bigger, toward leaving our arks, let us recognize the pain and the loss. But let us also hold on to those moments, and there are so many moments of beauty and of connectedness. I'd like to share just one with you from my own experience. I didn't leave the house much for many, many months. My partner, Sarah, was working in the hospitals as a physician, encountering COVID all of the time, and we were terrified. There was so much none of us knew, including what would happen if a 3-month-old would get sick. And so we stayed home. One of our dearest friends would come over and visit and would stay outside of our window in the front, mainly with the window closed, and would just try and talk to us and interact with Noah, who absolutely adores this friend. And then we felt like it was okay to have someone over. And this friend came into our home for the first time in I don't even know how many months. And I watched as Noah ran over to her and just gave her the biggest hug. And in that moment, I felt loss and the sadness of all that we had missed. But mainly, mostly, I felt joy, I felt love, and I felt hope. Tonight, as we start to prepare for these next steps and eventually leaving the ark, may we begin to stretch open our hearts. May we look inward, look upward, and look outward. Let us use these high holy days to prepare so that when it is finally time to leave the ark, we do so stronger, more aware, and more compassionate than when we entered. Shana Tova.
There is freedom within, there is freedom without. Try to catch the deluge in a paper cup. There's a battle ahead, many battles are lost, but you'll never see the end of the road while you're traveling with me. Hey now, don't dream it's over. Hey now, when the world comes in, they come to build a wall between us. We'll know they won't win. Now I'm towing my car, there's a hole in the roof. My possessions are causing me suspicion, but there's no proof. In the paper today, tales of war and our ways, but you turn right over to the TV page. Hey now, don't dream it's over. Hey now, when the world comes in, they come to build a wall between us. We'll know they won't win. Hey now, don't dream it's over. Hey now, when the world comes in, they come to build a wall between us. You know that they won't win.
Please rise for Aleinu on page 25.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגוי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות אדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא.
You may be seated. As we approach our mourner's Kaddish, we are sending love and strength to those in our community who are in a period of mourning to the loss of a loved one. And during this high holiday season of reflection, we know it can be a particularly challenging time for those who experienced loss in this past year. We want to send you love and strength as you walk through this season. If you are with us online, I invite you to share the names of those you're thinking of and you're holding for our mourner's Kaddish in the chat if you feel comfortable. And if you're in person, I invite you to rise. We will speak the mourner's Kaddish aloud on page 26.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה.
Amen.
בעלמא דברה קראותי וימליך מלכותי. בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעולמי עולמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא. ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקודשה בריחו לעילה ולעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה משמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן.
Amen, amen. All right, Shana Tova. As you can see, our COVID protocols are that we're all masked at all times, except for people who are up here, like Hillel when he's leading, or when we're speaking, if there's no one within 12 feet. So first, our thank you to our medical task force, who has been working for the last year and a half to try to figure out how to keep us all safe and also how to help us have the most meaningful experiences that we could together. We're incredibly grateful to be together in this way, and it's the utmost priority for all of us that we stay safe and that we stay healthy. These services we made them free and available to anybody wherever you are around the world, and the way that we were able to do that is because we have a couple of incredibly generous sponsors who I just want to take a minute to thank. First, Rabbi Barbara Zaki, who's here with us tonight, who is just an incredible love and really stepped up to say, what do we need to do to make this happen this year? And we're so grateful to you. She's joined by Roz and Abner Goldstein, who are the parents of Ethan Goldstein, our amazing board chair, all of whom are collectively every single day doing everything in their power to make the Jewish community of Los Angeles and the world a better place. And the incredible Marta Kaufman. And so Marta, who's actually the honorary co-chair of our Capital Campaign Committee, who's a beloved friend and a person who lives with incredible generosity. We thank all of you for making this possible for us on this High Holy Days. Tomorrow morning, we are going to be gathering at 9 o'clock Pacific time. I'm speaking tomorrow, and we'll be speaking at around 10:30 a.m. Pacific time. The next day, on Rosh Hashanah Day 2, Rabbi Kasher will be gathering again at 9 a.m. Rabbi Kasher will be speaking at around 10:30 in the morning. At the same time, we have two family services for children and their families that are happening upstairs. One that begins at 9 o'clock and one that I believe begins at 10:30, 10 o'clock. They'll have live shofar services in each of those places, and there are a lot of moving parts. We also know that even as we gather on site here and we have an overflow tent of people who are more comfortable being outside, that we also have little pods of IKAR connected people all over the city and outside and beyond the city as well. And we encourage you to find other pods as well so that people don't have to join services alone from your own homes, but people can sit safely in each other's backyard and stream services from there. I know this is super weird. None of us ever imagined anything like this would ever be happening, but we're adapting as best we can. And thank God for that adaptive muscle in us. In the week in between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, we have this incredibly beautiful Yisker Memorial Garden, which is on site at the IKAR offices at 1737 La Cienega. Many of you submitted photographs and memories of our loved ones who've died. It's incredibly beautiful. Just walking through it today actually was very powerful and emotional. I want to invite you to go and take your time and do a little bit of, this is an act of public grieving. We're sharing a little part of ourselves with each other and learning about each other through the grief. Yisker will be held on Yom Kippur, which is on the 16th, is that right? September 16th. In 10 days. And so we'll have our memorial service then, but you're invited to come and visit the Memorial Garden throughout the 10 days. And finally, I will also mention that we're going to be joined on Kol Nidre and Yom Kippur by Achinoam Nini, who is, who's just incredibly talented, powerful, brave, singer, musician, moral leader in Israel. She's absolutely stunning, and Hillel and I are so excited that she's going to come and join and do some davening with us, and so that will be happening on Yom Kippur. I want to invite you to just stick around. Stick around. I say this every Erev Rosh Hashanah for this service. I know it's not the same. I know for those of you who are with us on the screen, it hurts our hearts a little bit to be doing these ancient sacred practices mediated through a computer screen and not to see each other in person and hug each other and cry together and dance together. And it's not the same, it's true, but it's really still incredibly beautiful and so powerful. And as Rabbi Tzadok keeps reminding me and all of us, we're so much better off now than we were last year when we were all completely isolated. So I just invite us to think really the core message of the High Holy Days. We can't choose our circumstances, but we can choose how we're going to hold our hearts through the circumstances that we meet. And so I just want to invite you to give yourselves the sacred time. If you can, take a couple days off of work, show up, be here through the screen or in person, and let us just, in a time of such profound isolation and uncertainty, give ourselves the gift of sweet connection to one another and to the Holy One. And with that, I want to turn it over to Rabbi David Kasher to close with a blessing. I'll invite you to please rise in whatever way you are able.
Eloheinu v'Eloheinu b'Mosenu, God of our ancestors. This first blessing of the year is an easy one. I just want to bless us with a better year. A better year. We deserve a better year. I want to bless us with a year of breathing, deeply breathing, and gathering and laughing and singing in person, a year of traveling, a year of meeting new people, a year of sharing food. I want to bless us with a year of really living. We ask every year to be inscribed in the book of life. And we're thinking about this year, and I want to bless us with survival, and I want to bless us with health. But this year, I also want to ask that we be inscribed in the book of living, that we be sealed in the book of living, of thriving, of being fully alive. I'm calling upon God to bring us back to life, to bring us back into the fullness of life. May it be your will, Elohim Chaim, the God of life, the God of living. Kei Yeh Ratzon.
Hey!
Shana
Shana
Tova.
Shana Tova.
Shana Tova. Yeah.
Whoa,